The sun never truly rose on Velmore 7. The sky was always red, and the air was filled with the sound of distant howls. The planet had once been peaceful, home to small alien villages with glowing trees and crystal rivers. But everything changed. When the Ragthorns came, the Ragthorns were monsters. They were tall, with hard black skin, long claws, and red eyes that never blinked. No one knew where they came from, but they hunted in packs and tore through everything. They destroyed crops, homes, and families. In the middle of the chaos was a mother named Mira. She was a Solari, a kind and gentle species known for healing magic. Mira had 2 small children, Laika and Rin, twin siblings who always smiled and laughed together. But now, their laughter was gone. The Ragthorns attacked their village at night. Fires spread quickly, and people ran. Mira tried to protect her children, but the monsters were fast. In one horrible moment, a Ragthorn grabbed the twins and vanished into the forest. Mira screamed their names, but there was nothing she could. To the next day, the village was quiet. Many were lost. Mira stood alone in the ruins of her home, crying silently. She knew the Ragthorns took her children to the Crimson Forest, a place no one dared to enter. It was said that once you went in, you never came back. Still, Mira did not give up. She sent out a distress call using the old beacon tower. The message was simple. "My children are alive. Please, someone help me. I will give everything I have." Days passed. No reply came. The people of her village told her to forget. The forest was death. No one would come. But then, on the 3rd night, a small ship landed outside the village. It was not a Solari ship. It was old, rusty, and had Earth symbols on it. A single man stepped out, wearing dark armor and carrying a long rifle on his back. His name was Captain Rourke. He was human. His face was rough, with scars that told stories of old battles. His eyes were sharp, and he moved like someone who had seen war too many times. The villagers whispered about him. Many were afraid. But Mira stepped forward, her heart full of hope. "You got my message?" she asked. Rourke nodded once. "You said they're still alive?" "Yes," Mira said, holding back tears. "My twins, Laika and Rin. The monsters took them." Rourke looked toward the dark forest. He didn't flinch. "Then I'll get them back." The village elder stepped forward. "You don't understand. No one comes back from the Crimson Forest. There are hundreds of Ragthorns. You'll die." "I'm not no one," Rourke replied simply. He spent the rest of the day checking his weapons and preparing supplies. He didn't ask for payment. He didn't talk much. When someone asked why he was doing this, he said only, "I've seen too many children lost. Not this time." That night, Rourke sat near the fire with Mira. She gave him a small, glowing stone. "This was Laika's," she said softly. "It helps them sleep. Maybe it will guide you." Rourke took it and nodded. At dawn, he walked into the Crimson Forest alone. The trees were tall and twisted, glowing red under the sky. The ground was soft and strange noises echoed through the air. But Rourke did not stop. His eyes stayed forward, his steps steady. Soon, he met his first Ragthorn. It jumped out of the bushes, hissing loudly. Rourke shot it clean, through the head. Then another came. Then 3 more. He fought them all. The forest was filled with danger, but Rourke moved like a ghost. He set traps, used firebombs, and never wasted a bullet. The Ragthorns began to fall one by one. By the end of the day, he had already killed over 20. Back in the village, Mira sat in silence. The villagers told her not to hope, but her heart believed. She kept the fire burning, waiting for the man, who walked into the forest to bring back her children. And far away, deep in the trees, Rourke found a small cloth, one that smelled like sleep and stars. He smiled. "The twins are close," he whispered. Then he reloaded his rifle and walked deeper into the dark. The deeper Captain Rourke walked into the crimson forest, the stranger everything became. The trees no longer looked like trees. They were tall and thin, with red glowing vines wrapped around them. Strange sounds came from above, like whispers and clicks. The ground moved in small waves, as if something was breathing underneath, but Rourke kept going. He followed the signs, broken branches, scratch marks, and small pieces of cloth. He held the small glowing stone that Mira gave him. When it glowed brighter, he knew he was getting closer. Suddenly, a low growl came from the right. Rourke turned. Quickly, a ragthorn leapt out of the bushes, its claws raised. Without thinking, he pulled the trigger. The shot hit its head, and the beast fell, its black blood leaking onto the red ground. More came. 2 from behind, 1 from the trees. Rourke rolled to the side and fired again. The sound of gunfire echoed through the forest. By the time the last ragthorn fell, Rourke was breathing hard. He wiped sweat from his face. His left arm was bleeding, but he didn't stop. He wrapped it with a cloth and moved on. He had killed 35 monsters so far. As he walked deeper, memories came back to him, painful ones. Years ago, during the Earth-Zarian Wars, he was part of a team sent to save human children taken by alien raiders. They had failed. Rourke was the only one who made it out alive. Since then, he had never stopped blaming himself. But this time would be different. This time, he would win. Hours passed. The forest grew darker. Strange, glowing insects flew by, and the trees began to shake even without wind. Rourke saw a dark cave up ahead. Large claw marks were on the rocks. The ground was covered with bones. He had reached the Beastlands, the heart of the Ragthorn territory. He climbed the rocks and entered the cave. The air inside was thick and smelled of rot. He turned on his helmet light and moved slowly, every step silent. Suddenly he heard a sound, a small voice, 2 voices. "Rin, I'm scared." "I know, Laika. Mama will come." Rourke froze. He turned left, walked down a narrow path, and saw them. The twins were inside a cage made of sharp bones. They looked tired, dirty, but alive. Laika was holding her brother close, and both were shaking. Rourke stepped closer. But before he could reach them, a loud roar shook the cave. From the shadows came a ragthorn brute, a larger version of the monsters, with double horns and armor-like skin. It was 3 meters tall and very fast. Rourke aimed and shot, but the bullets bounced off its thick skin. The brute charged. Rourke rolled aside and threw a flash grenade. The light exploded, blinding the beast for a second. He used the chance to climb a rock and jump on its back. He stabbed it with an energy blade, but the brute roared and threw him against the wall. Pain shot through Rourke's chest, but he stood up. He switched to explosive rounds and fired directly into the brute's mouth. The beast stumbled, shook, then fell with a loud crash. Silence returned to the cave. The twins stared at Rourke with wide eyes. He smiled and walked to the cage. "Your mom sent me." He broke the bone bars and picked both of them up gently. They were light and small, no more than 6 years old. "Are you hurt?" he asked. They shook their heads. "We were scared," said Rin. "I know," Rourke said, "but you're safe now." He checked his rifle. Only a few bullets left. His armor was cracked. His arm hurt, and he was tired. But he had the twins. That was enough. Outside the cave, more ragthorns waited, dozens of them. They had heard the noise. They were angry. Rourke looked at the twins. "Hold tight." He placed them in a small tree hollow and gave them Mira's glowing stone. "Stay here. Don't move until I come back." He stood up, raised his rifle, and walked into the open. The ragthorns growled and charged, but Rourke did not back down. He fought with everything he had: bullets, grenades, blades, and even his fists. He moved like a storm, fast and deadly. The monsters fell one by one. 10, 20, 30. His body was cut and burned. His hands bled. But he kept fighting. The sky above was red, but for a moment it looked like fire and light danced around the human. By the end of the night, Rourke had killed over 100 ragthorns, and he was still standing. Captain Rourke stood in the clearing, his body covered in cuts and bruises. Around him lay the broken bodies of over 100 ragthorns. Smoke rose from small fires where grenades had exploded. His armor was cracked, and one eye was swollen, shut. But he was still breathing. Slowly, he walked back to the hollow tree where the twins were hiding. He knelt and gently opened the cover. "It's me," he said softly. The twins peeked out. Their eyes were full of fear, but they smiled when they saw him. "You came back," said Laika, her voice shaking. "Of course I did," Rourke said. "I promised your mother." He lifted both of them into his arms. His left arm was weak, so he balanced them carefully. The glowing stone Mira had given him was still warm in Rin's hand. It gave a soft blue light in the dark. "We're going home," Rourke said. But as he turned to leave, the ground shook. Boom! The sound came from deep below. Boom! The trees shook, and birds flew away. The air felt heavy, and even the twins looked frightened. "What is that?" Rin asked. Rourke's eyes narrowed. "Something big." Suddenly, the ground cracked open behind them. A huge shape rose from the earth, larger than any ragthorn he had seen. It was the ragthorn Alpha. This one was different. It had glowing red veins across its black body. Its head had sharp horns, and it walked on 4 legs with a thick tail behind it. Its eyes were bright and full of hate. The Alpha roared, and the trees nearby fell from the force. Rourke quickly hid the twins behind a rock. "Don't move, no matter what." He stood up, his hands shaking, but his heart steady. He checked his gear. Only 2 explosive rounds left, 1 knife, and a smoke bomb. The Alpha charged. Rourke dove to the side and fired 1 explosive shot at its leg. The blast hit, but it only made the monster angrier. It swung its tail, hitting Rourke and sending him flying into a tree. He gasped in pain, his chest burning, but he got up. "You're not stopping me," he said, coughing. The Alpha came again, faster this time. Rourke threw his smoke bomb, filling the area with thick gray fog. He ran under the beast and stabbed its leg with his knife. Black blood poured out, and the Alpha screamed. Still, it didn't fall. Rourke jumped back, pulled out the last explosive round, and aimed for the head. He waited. Closer. Closer. He fired. The shot hit the Alpha's eye, and the beast let out a final roar before crashing to the ground with a loud boom that shook the trees. Everything went quiet. Rourke fell to his knees, breathing heavily. His arms dropped, and his body refused to move. But the Alpha was dead. He crawled over to the rock and saw the twins still hiding, wide-eyed. "It's done," he whispered. "Let's go home." The journey back through the forest was slow. Rourke carried the twins on his back, one tied with cloth, the other in his arms. He moved carefully, avoiding the places where more ragthorns might still be hiding. His steps were heavy, and his body was tired. But he didn't stop. On the second night, it rained. Cold water poured from the sky, and the forest turned to mud. Rourke found a cave and built a small fire. He gave the twins food from his emergency pack and covered them with his coat. "You're hurt," Laika said, looking at the blood on his shoulder. "I'll be fine," Rourke said. "You two are safe. That's what matters." The twins curled up beside him, holding his hand. For the first time in days, they slept peacefully. By the morning of the third day, the trees began to thin. The red light of the forest faded. Rourke saw the edge of the village in the distance. He smiled. He took one more step, then another, and then he collapsed. The twins screamed. Villagers ran forward. Mira pushed through the crowd, her heart racing. When she saw him on the ground, holding both her children close even in pain, she fell to her knees. "Rourke!" she cried. His eyes opened weakly. "I kept my promise." Mira hugged him, tears falling. "You did more than that." The villagers stood in silence, looking at the human who had done the impossible. He had walked into the Crimson Forest alone. He had killed over 200 monsters, and he had brought the twins back alive. The village was quiet as the sun began to rise. The red sky of Velmore 7 faded into a soft orange light, gentle and warm. Mira sat beside Captain Rourke, her hands working carefully over his wounds. Rourke's body was covered in scars and cuts. Some were deep, and others burned from fire. His breathing was slow but steady. The villagers watched quietly, their eyes full of respect and wonder. Mira's hands glowed softly with her healing magic. She touched the cuts and bruises, and the wounds slowly closed. The burns faded, but on his skin, pale blue marks appeared, like tiny stars shining under the surface. "These marks," Mira said softly, "are a sign. They mean you survived the forest's trial." Rourke looked at his arm. The marks pulsed gently. "It is an honor few receive," Mira explained. "It shows strength and courage." The twins sat nearby, watching the healer work. Laika reached out and touched Rourke's hand. "Thank you for saving us," she said quietly. Rourke smiled weakly. "I did what I had to." Days passed and Rourke rested. Mira fed him special foods made from glowing plants that grew only on Velmore 7. The villagers brought fresh water and blankets. Slowly, strength returned to his body. At night, Mira told stories of the Silari people and their history. She explained that the twins were special. They were part of a prophecy. The last of their bloodline could bring peace to the land if they survived. Rourke listened, feeling a strange warmth in his chest. For years he had fought only to survive, to protect strangers. But here, in this quiet village, something changed. He felt like he belonged. One evening, Mira sat beside him under the stars. "You have saved more than my children," she said. "You have given hope." Rourke looked up at the sky. "I never expected this," Mira smiled. "Sometimes hope finds us when we least expect it." Meanwhile, the villagers began to change their minds about humans. For years, many had feared them, stories told of human wars and destruction. But Rourke was different. They saw how he fought with courage, how he never gave up. They saw how he cared for the twins. Slowly, the walls of fear and doubt began to fall. One day, the village elder approached Rourke. "You are welcome here," he said. "You have proven yourself. Will you stay?" Rourke hesitated. He had no home left on Earth, no family, no friends. But here, people needed him. Maybe this was where he belonged. "I will stay," Rourke said quietly. The villagers cheered. The twins smiled brighter than ever. Mira stood beside Rourke. "We will train together, so that one day no one will have to fear the Ragthorns again." Rourke nodded. For the first time in years, he felt hope. As weeks passed, Rourke taught the villagers how to defend themselves. He showed them how to use simple weapons and build traps. The twins learned quickly and grew stronger each day. The glowing stone that Mira had given the twins was placed in the village center. It became a symbol of courage and survival. Rourke and Mira often walked through the forest's edge, watching the children play. The village was healing, just like him. One day Mira presented Rourke with a gift, a simple necklace made from blue crystals that glowed softly. "This is for you," she said. "The heart of the mountain. It is a title given to those who protect our people." Rourke held the necklace, feeling the cool glow. "I don't deserve this." "Yes, you do," Mira said firmly. "You saved more than lives. You saved hope." Rourke smiled. The scars on his body were still there, but they no longer hurt as much. They were proof of his fight and his new home. That night, under the red stars of Velmore 7, Rourke sat by the fire with the twins. Laika rested her head on his shoulder, and Rin held his hand tightly. The village was quiet, but the future was bright. For the first time, Rourke dreamed not of war, but of peace. The morning sun stretched its warm light over the village of Velmore 7. The red glow of the sky softened into orange and gold. The air smelled fresh and clean, a sign that the long, dark days of danger were slowly ending. Captain Rourke sat outside. The small hut Mira had prepared for him. His body was still healing, but the blue marks on his skin shone softly. They reminded him of everything he had been through. The twins, Laika and Rin, ran toward him laughing. Their faces were bright with joy and life. "Captain Rourke!" Laika shouted. Throwing her arms around his neck, Rourke smiled, his rough face softening. "Hey, you two! Ready for training?" Rin nodded eagerly. "Yes! We want to be strong like you," Rourke laughed. "Then let's get started." The village had changed a lot since Rourke arrived. What was once a quiet place filled with fear now buzzed with energy. Villagers built fences, dug trenches, and practiced fighting. Rourke taught them how to use simple weapons and traps to defend themselves from any future Ragthorn attacks. He showed them how to think like a fighter, not just a victim. One afternoon, as the sun began to set, Mira approached Rourke with a small, glowing box in her hands. "I have something for you," she said softly. Rourke looked at her, curious. She opened the box to reveal a beautiful necklace made of blue crystals. The crystals shimmered and seemed to pulse with light. "This," Mira said, "is the heart of the mountain. It is a great honor in our culture. We give it only to those who protect our people with courage and strength." Rourke's eyes widened. "I don't deserve this. I just did what anyone would do." Mira smiled kindly. "Not everyone walks into the forest alone. Not everyone fights for strangers. You carry more than scars. You carry hope." Rourke took the necklace and slowly placed it around his neck. The cool crystals rested against his chest. "I will wear it with pride," he said. That night, the village gathered for a celebration. Fires burned bright, and the sky was full of stars. Music played and children danced. Rourke sat beside Mira and the twins, watching the happy faces around him. For the first time in a long time, he felt peace. Mira leaned close. "You have given us more than protection. You have given us a family." Rourke looked at the twins playing nearby and then at Mira. He nodded. "I never thought I would find a home again," he said quietly. "But maybe I have." The next morning, Rourke stood at the edge of the village, looking out toward the forest. The trees were still tall and dark, but they no longer felt like a place of fear. They were a reminder of the battles won and the future waiting to be built. Laika and Rin ran up to him, laughing and full of energy. "Will you teach us to be brave like you?" Laika asked. "Always," Rourke said with a smile. "And one day, you will teach others too." He lifted the twins onto his shoulders. Together they looked out over the village and the forest beyond. The sun rose higher, casting light over a world ready for new stories. Rourke had fought many battles, lost much, and carried deep scars. But here, among new friends and a new home, he found something stronger than pain, hope, and family. The human who killed 300 monsters to save 2 small children had earned a reward worth every scar.